What is up, Square Nation? Welcome back to No Counters, No Combos, and today we're coming at you from the mobile command center. As you can see, we're actually going to be going over a deck profile today. Something similar to what I've done earlier on the channel. I did do a Gohan Icarus deck profile earlier on the channel, but it was definitely a budget build. This by no means is budget at all. As you can see, there are some tournament promos in this deck. There are a couple of cards that might be a little expensive, especially because of the draft box cards that you can see with the Icarus there. But for the most part, other than the 4 tournament promos and the 2 SRs from Giant Force, everything else is pretty affordable. Now, the reason I want to go over this deck profile is because this is the deck I'm going to be taking to my shop championship for Vermilion Bloodlines this weekend, November 21st at Gamer's Edge. So I kind of wanted to go over my thought process and my choices. I've tested this deck extensively. I know there's a lot of different builds floating around. As you can see, I chose to not play the Caulifla package with the 1-drop and evolving the 4-drop over it. It's just, I didn't want to go ahead and do that because I do really like playing the Unison on turn 3 or 4, and I didn't want to lose my double striker that was basically going to get under or not get under my Unison. So I elected to go a different route, and I have tested this, and this deck could go one of 2 ways. You can choose to blow your opponent out as early as possible by aggressing it and just hitting them with constant 1-drops, or you can choose to play a little bit later to get your bigger threats out, like your 6-drops and your secret rare or your boss monster, so to speak. So I kind of wanted to go over it and share it with you guys. I'm definitely going to try and get some gameplay on the channel for you so you can see the deck in action. But for those of you who are interested in playing this deck, I definitely swear by this build. I don't think it's 100%, you know, like meta defining or anything like that. But if you enjoy the archetype, I would definitely try this build out. So the first thing we're going to go over is the black cards. It's a very small black package. We're playing 4 4-star Dragon Balls and 4 of the Goku Jr., Vegeta Jr. Unison. So the reason I'm playing the 4-star ball is because it's a free 5k combo card, but when I combo it with a skillless card, the skillless card gets an extra 5k. So it's essentially, it's a 10k combo. Similar to the Supreme Kai that a lot of the Vegex decks play, it being the 1-drop, you know, 5k combo. If you have 5 or less cards in your hand, it goes up to 10k. I experimented with that card early on before the 4-star ball, but what I noticed with that card is I never really had a situation where I had less than 5 cards in hand. So I was just throwing extra combo power just to make my Supreme Kais big, and it just didn't feel like I was comboing effectively. So I decided to go a different route, and then I came across the 4-star balls. Now, granted, he does not work. It does not give you a 10k on your leader, and it does not give you anything that's not skillless, a skillless battle card. But being that this is a skillless strategy and you do revolve around the 1-drops, when you have your Unison out, anything that's 5 or less is a skillless battle card. So if I have a Piccolo on board and my Unison is out because he's a 3-drop, my Piccolo is now a skillless card. So he'll swing for 15 and I can use the ball to make him a 25. Same thing with Cooler. As you can see, I have Swift Retaliation Cooler in there. He'll be a skillless battle card. So there are different applications that you can make in this deck. Obviously, the 10k is not going to target your 6-drops or your Unison or your leader or anything like that. But I've definitely had a lot of success in testing with it, especially when I go for that late game push. Swinging with a 1-drop weenie, most of the time people don't negate it, and you could just make him huge. And if the situation plays out properly, you can give it a Champa, and then, you know, double strike for game on a 1-drop skillless battle card. So that was my thought process behind the 4-star ball. It's tested pretty well. Let's see how it does in real life. And then I think the best Unison for the deck is hands down the Scions. It's a great turn 1 play. You get a 10k swing off. You can neg 1 on a marker to bring 2 vanillas out. You get 2 swings there, and then your leader swings. You get 4 swings potentially turn 1 if you're going second. And also, he does have a really good effect to filter cards back into the deck. Most of the time, you're going to be using his -1 to get the other guys out. But later in the game, if you just have extra energy to use, he's essentially a draw 2. You can play him for 2. You can shuffle 2 skillless battle cards from your drop area back into your deck and then draw 2 cards. The reason that's relevant is because of the tournament promo, but we'll get into that as we, you know, go down the rest of the list. So I definitely like the Scions, the Saiyan Scions Unison, because it just helps filter out and get the cards out of the deck, which can reduce your skill list count. I mean, originally I was playing 10 skill lists, and I've gotten down to 8. So one further Indestruction Champa. I mean, I think it's just a really good game ender. If your opponent's sitting at 2 life, you don't really have any printed double strikers except for your 6-drop. So your opponent might not see the Champa coming, and those are always the best wins when you can just, you know, swing in knowing you have the Champa, they choose not to negate, and then you could get absurdly huge with combo power. I really like playing further Indestruction Champa. Forever in Our Memories, I cut this down to 1. It did pain me to cut it down to 1, but I noticed a lot when I do play this card, it's usually later in the game, and then when he's on the board, it's usually I win that turn, or my opponent only usually gets 1 more turn out of it. So I felt like because the deck draws a lot of cards and you see cards in your deck, it's okay playing him at 1. He does have a good secondary effect for +0 markers. You can bring 2 skillless battle cards onto the field from your drop area, so you can just continue to go wide. And obviously his permanent does give your skillless battle cards that are cost of 1 plus 5k, so they do swing for 15, which is great on awakened leaders. But I think more than 1 copy is kind of suspect. I was playing 2 just in case I had 1 in life, but I just feel like 1 is the sweet spot because of what it does for the deck. It's kind of just like, the way I use it is like, if I play this card, I'm either going to be really far ahead or that's going to be my kill turn. So I don't want to waste too much resources in the deck. Try to keep it as flexible and as close to 50 as possible because we're playing 50 cards. The next card is the 6-drop Gohan Icarus Flying High. Basically, for those of you Magic players, he's a lord. He gives all of your skillless battle cards plus 5k, so kind of like injunction with the Unison, they can get pretty big pretty quickly. You can play him for 1 if you have at least 3 energy by KOing 2 of your skillless battle cards and playing him for 1 yellow. He's a unique 25k dual attacker. When he leaves the field, he goes to the warp. So you can't use Successor in this deck for Cell Xeno, which has definitely been juggled around, but because they go to warp, it does not fulfill the requirement for Successor. But that was definitely thought of plenty of times. But I like this card at 2. He is a 10k combo. He is a unique. I don't want to clog too much because you do utilize a lot of your energy to advance your board state. I don't want to leave too much energy for like defensive purposes that's not a negate. So either a counterplay, you know, stuff like that, I'm okay with having energy for. But a 10k combo just kind of feels bad. Even though you do draw on the awakened side, I feel like that's not what you really want to do with this card. So I just cut it down to 2 because you're not really going to resolve more than 2 in the game. That you're essentially KOing 4 battle cards if you want to resolve 2, and there are more efficient plays that you can make. But he does have some merit because if you don't have your Unison and you have a board full of 1-drops and they're just 10ks and you can't really put pressure, he can come out and give them plus 5k, and now you can start swinging. We're playing 4 of the 1-drop Gohan skill list. That's self-explanatory. You need to have targets in your deck. The reason I'm playing Gohan as a skill list, though, is because he's an EX Evolve target for the 6-drop. So, yeah, where this slot would normally be filled by other 1-drop skill list cards like Ketoplasia or Caulifla, I'm playing the Gohan engine because of the 6-drop. 4 super combos, you know, bottom deck draw 2, staple, in my opinion. Piccolo. So the reason I'm playing Piccolo is because he has interaction with my opponent's board. So he's a counterplay for 2 on my opponent's turn. Even though he's a printed 3 cost, on my opponent's turn, he gets a reduction of 1. And basically, if your opponent attempts to play a battle card that's 4 or less, you can counterplay it and its skills are negated. So he's a walking bloodlust. And sometimes that really does matter. Like, unless the card has deflect, of course, you're not really going to target anything. But if your opponent attempts to play a 4-drop that, you know, is pretty game-changing, whether it has barrier or some type of keyword, double strike, triple strike, whatever, some type of ETB on the auto, you could definitely just slap this Piccolo down. It gives you a body, a 15k attacker. Obviously, it's going to give you pressure. And in combination with the skillless, with the Unison, it would become a skillless after it resolves onto the board. So you would still get its counterplay timing. But then once he hits the board, he's a skillless card, so he would get, you know, all those applications for skillless cards with like 4-star ball and stuff like that. So I just really like him. I think I'm not playing 4 because I'm playing, I guess we'll skip around here. I'm not playing 4 Piccolos because I'm playing 2 Super Ice Rays. Super Ice Ray is basically Crusher Ball, but it can target battle cards and Unisons. So I'm playing a 2-2 split here just to have, you know, flexible interaction. If I need to put something in rest mode, I'll use Ice Ray. If I need to negate an on-play auto, I'll use Piccolo. So that's pretty much my thought process behind it. I'm playing 4 of the Higher Dragon or Icarus skillless card. It's very important in this deck. You can use it in 100 different applications. When you're awakened, it's a 5k combo that draws you a card. When you're not awakened, it gives your leader plus 5k if you control a skillless. He's a 10k swing. Obviously, he's an EX Evolved target for the 6-drop. And it's just, you know, it's part of your skillless engine that you need to play. Icy Ray, we went over. 3 Nimbus and 3 Time Magic. So these 6 cards are definitely the most flex, or I shouldn't say flex like, oh, flex, but like flex spots that I've had in the deck. I went from having 4 Nimbus and 2 Time Magic to 3 Nimbus, 2 Time Magic, and a Restraint in the main deck. And then I've kind of settled on 3 Nimbus and 3 Time Magic. I think 6 Negates is fine, especially ones with applications like Nimbus and Time Magic. Even though Nimbus is a floodgate, it's one of the lesser effective floodgates in the game right now because it doesn't really affect leaders or unisons. Topo and Gohan obviously do that because your opponent has to pay a cost in order to continue to attack. But I definitely feel like there's some merit for Nimbus. If you can't get cards in the graveyard or in the drop area to start plussing off of your leader, this is a great way to do that. You know, by activating a Nimbus and pitching a skillless to the drop area, you'll be able to activate your leader's main once he's awakened. So there's just a lot of different applications for it. And a well-timed Nimbus, especially on a leader swing, it could really save you and get you to that next turn, which is sometimes all that you really need. Time Magic I really like, you know, for like pesky dual attackers and stuff like that. There's a lot of different cards that restand, you know, just off the top of my head. You know, you have Grim Reaper, that's a dual attacker. Obviously, you can't interact with Gotenk's Unison because it's a Unison card, but just stuff like that that would restand. You know, you can kind of just halt them and put them in their tracks, and it does negate barrier too. It does ignore barrier, I should say, and it's also a sparking negate. So if I don't have energy open for defense, as long as I have 5 in the drop area, I'm not like a dead fish in the water. But I do like Time Magic, especially if you need to, you know, self-awaken that 1 extra life that you're not really getting. You know, it does get, there's a lot of different applications here. So this new 1-drop Gohan from Draft Box 6. He's a common card, or uncommon. He's a 1-drop. He's a 5k attacker, 1-drop yellow. Auto, when this card attacks, you can take a life, and then you can discard a card from your hand and play up to 1 skillless battle card from your drop area. So basically what he does is he helps you facilitate your self-awaken, but he also gets your skilllesses out on the board. Now, you can make the argument that the 1-drop Piccolo from set 11 does have some merit. However, I tested that deck. I tested that card, you know, very profusely as well. But I just found Gohan having a lot more applications because of the fact that he can apply pressure. Like Piccolo was just a 5k attacker. Normally what I would do is I would play the Piccolo, play the skillless card, and then swing with the skillless and combo the Piccolo just to make him a 15k. I don't have to do that with Gohan because he's a 15k all on its own, and he also gets the skillless out from the drop area. So for example, when you're talking about Piccolo, I used to want to mulligan and keep a Piccolo and put all my skillless battle cards in the deck just so he can have a target. Now I don't have to worry about so much if I draw a couple skillless battle cards because I could just pitch them with the Gohan and then bring them right back out from the drop area. So it gives you an extra swing. Piccolo didn't really do that. And obviously it gives your leader that permanent 5k boost, which is great. And it's a card your opponent has to deal with and not ignore it, because if they let it go, every time he swings, he's gonna be a 15k attacker. Piccolo didn't really do that. He was just that random card that would just stay on the board after you brought him out, and that was it. You know, there's really no applications past that. So I definitely like this Gohan. It can help you self-awaken a lot quicker, even though your leader does take life on swing. If you really need to awaken by a certain turn, you need to rush and turbo it, you can definitely do that with this 1-drop. Next card is the 6-drop from Draft Box Rare. This is one of the uncommons. He's a unique double strike, 20k. Basically, he's an EX Evolve for 1 yellow on a Gohan Youth or Icarus or Higher Dragon, whatever you want to call it. So there are a lot of different targets for this evolution. So you have your 1-drop Gohan, your 1-drop Icarus, and then you have your skillless ones. Then you have your actual 1-drop Gohan, and you actually have your 2-drop tournament promo as well, because you can evolve over those if you want to get a 20k double striker out on the board for just 1 energy. This card in combination with the 6-drop is great, because you'll have a 25k dual attacker and then you have a 20k double striker. You can threaten for game. I think Gohan really was missing that double strike pressure. And I'm glad that he got it in a form of essentially a 1-drop. So that's just, you know, my opinions on the card. He also does have that permanent where if he were to leave the board, he does go to the warp as well. So again, you really can't successor. The next card, we're playing 2 Icarus from Draft Box 6. I toyed with this card a lot. I had it at 4, I had it at 2, I had it at 1, I had it at 3. I basically, you know, experimented with so many ratios. I think 2 is the sweet spot. It's a free 5k combo that triggers your leader on the awakened side, and then also auto when you combo with this card, if it's your opponent's turn, you can tap a yellow energy, and then at the end of the battle you get to play 2 skill lists from your deck or drop. So that's really good because it helps put bodies on board, but because it's only on your opponent's turn, that's obviously the balancing factor in it. I didn't feel like maxing this guy out would be so worth it. You know, if I could do this on my turn, you know, and just combo with him and then, you know, tap a yellow and bring out 2 more skillless cards, yeah, obviously you would jam 4 of these automatically into the deck, because that's just insane value. But because it has to be my opponent's turn and I do have to tap a yellow, you know, most of the time I don't want to tap a yellow for a combo card unless I know it's their last swing, because you really never know. There's a lot of defensive cards that I play with, like negates and counterplays and stuff like that. So tapping a yellow in a combo kind of hurts. But if I absolutely know 100% it's their last swing, I don't mind comboing this card to draw and then tapping a yellow to get 2 skillless battle cards out for the start of my turn. So it's just another efficient way of getting bodies on the board, and then I can go into my EX Evolve plays, or, you know, just, you know, start swinging with little guys. So I definitely think he's worth it to play. I just think 2 is the right number. 2 Swift Retaliation Cooler. Counter is busted. I mean, it's just a great card to play. You do have a lot of energy open in this deck after you get past turn 3, because most of your plays are going to be either free or 1 energy. So having a Swift Retaliation Cooler to negate that counter skill that your opponent's trying to activate to save themselves, it definitely could swing in your favor for game. 1 Sin Shenron. So this card, actually, I wasn't playing it originally until I found out about how exactly it works. And it's just nuts. It's a 35k blocker. He can't be removed from the field by your opponent's skills, so they can't pop it, they can't warp it. They actually have to attack into it. So he's a printed 7 cost, but his effect is he reduces his cost for each 1-drop card in your drop area. And he has a restricted cost of 1 yellow. So literally, I can bring this guy out for 1 yellow energy, and he's a 35k blocker. Every time he activates his block skill, he restands and loses 5k. So he can block an enormous amount of attacks if you're using it properly. And then, you know, if for some reason you feel like you can push for game, you have a 35k body on the board that your opponent's going to have a really tough time interacting with, because he's so huge and you're only going to bring it out for 1 energy. So this card, I think, is a staple in any skillless Gohan deck, because it's probably the best secret rare that you can play in the deck for 1 energy. That's just insane in my opinion. And then the last card, we're talking about 4 of the tournament promo best buddies. He's a 2-drop 15k attacker, but basically you can play him for 1 by, I think it's sending one of your skillless battle cards from your battle area to the drop area. You can play him, and then when he's played, you can grab 2 skillless battle cards from your deck with different names and add them to your hand. So again, he's just another 2-drop, another pressure card. You know, once your opponent's awakened, if you don't have any ways of manipulating your 10Ks to 15Ks, that's where he comes in clutch, because you can easily just activate main, bring out a 1K, a 10K from the drop area with your leader, and then go right into this guy. So he's really good because he can pressure for 15K, and he's also an EX Evolve target for the 6-drop. I also really like his ETB of grabbing you 2 skillless cards from the deck into your hand, which is why I like the Saiyan Scions effect as well. So the -2 on the Unison shuffles 2 skill lists back. I just make sure that the 2 cards I'm shuffling back have different names, so that way my best buddies is always live. So I mean, that's basically it. I know this was a longer deck profile, but I definitely just wanted to get out my explanation as to why I chose to play these cards and the ratios that I chose to play. I've been testing this deck a lot on tap, unfortunately. I haven't really had too much in real life testing, but I'm definitely going to put it through the ringer this weekend at the Shop Championship. So if you guys enjoy this profile or this list, I definitely encourage you guys to try it. Let me know if I'm right in certain areas, if I'm wrong in others. You know, I definitely want to hear your feedback and see if you guys have had success with this archetype. Because obviously Gohan's my favorite character, and I'm just glad that he has, you know, some support in set 11 that could be pretty relevant. I don't think this deck is top tier. I think it could be like 1.5. We'll see how, you know, what type of results I get this weekend. Obviously yellow just has some really bad matchups across the board. But I think if you're playing it properly and you're doing what the deck wants to do naturally, you can definitely get some wins. So let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Be there or be squared.